All right, guys, we are about to watch a panel about continuing the legacy of the Avatar. Uh, I just finished another rewatch of the show not too long ago. I mean, it was on. I did a top 10 favorite TV shows of all time video, and it was on that list for sure. Um, I love it to death, man. I watched it on its initial run. I've rewatched it multiple times since. I have it on DVD and Blu-ray. I've watched Korra. I didn't like it as much, but it was still pretty good. It definitely had some issues that it just couldn't recapture from the original, but it still was really strong in its own right, in a lot of ways. But this show was just groundbreaking, I think, especially for children's TV. It was so much more deep, so much more layered and nuanced than most children's shows were willing to do at the time, tackling a lot of really heavy themes, tackling just a whole plethora of ideas, philosophies, and serious issues and topics that most shows for the demographic that it was going for would never go near tackling. It's really interesting. I've been honestly, I've been on such a kick on it since it's been back on Netflix that I've been watching reactor upon reactor that has been experiencing the show for the first time, since I can't have that feeling anymore. And that's why I think a lot of people like watching people react to stuff, is because once you watch something, you can never have that first experience again, and that's kind of a way to recapture that. Both also seeing somebody else's different reaction to your own, to seeing maybe their reaction validate your own feelings towards something you love. It's really interesting, and I love it. And I've been like getting a lot of feedback and a lot of interesting ideas that I've been picking up from people who are experiencing it now for the first time. For somehow missed the show completely when it was in its initial run. My favorite person to watch right now is A Good One TV, and like he's got a lot of really insightful comments whenever he's going through each of the episodes. I really like watching that. So if you haven't checked that out, check him out. But yeah, we're up and ready to go. Welcome, Jack the Ripper. We're going to go ahead and get it going. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer. I have headphones on. I can hear the video perfectly fine. If I hear something worth reacting to or mentioning, I will talk about it. All right, so here we go. But I am really interested in this, so I will probably be listening more intently to this than the New Mutants thing from yesterday, because I just love this show.
Perfect.
Is it too quiet? Nobody talking?
Hello, everybody,
there we go.
and welcome to Comic-Con at Home. This is a new experience for, I think, all of us, and I'm so excited to have you all here with us. This is our Avatar panel, and we have
Let me know if you all needed me to turn up the volume for the video.
Avatar and Korra, that is. And I would love to introduce our guests today. So let's go ahead and start with Michael Dimartino. And we're going to talk about what he has done for the Avatar world and why he's here today.
I guess I'm here because I helped create this. Yes, I'm one of the co-creators of the show, original series and Legend of Korra. And then I've consulted on all the comics with Gene, with Faith. I was also consulting on the Avatar Kyoshi novels with FC, and wrote a couple arcs for the Korra comics as well. So I will never be free of this universe.
I hope this is more like.
How about you?
Hi,
I don't know what
Faith
to
Hicks,
expect from this.
And I am the current writer on the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics. I took over from Gene's run.
Perfect. And Gene?
Hi, I'm Gene. I did the first 5 arcs of the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics in consultation with Mike and Brian, and with art by this amazing art team named Gurihiru. They're a Japanese art studio in Japan.
All right, so last time I forgot that this isn't actually being live broadcast and I can pause it. So I might do that here and there if I don't want to interrupt them. I'm trying to make this a little more fluid without disrupting the video because I'm new to like doing this kind of thing. And I think it's kind of fun to do that because you're here with me. Now, so continuing the Avatar legacy. I know I'm probably going to get answers on this later, but this is Dark Horse official channel. And this is kind of making me think that this is going to be them talking about how they've continued past the show with the comics that they've written with the new Kyoshi novel that came out. I would really like to have something new announced, but I don't know if we're going to get those. I'm not getting that kind of vibe out of this.
Perfect. And then FC.
Hi, I'm FCE. I wrote the young adult prequel novel, The Rise of Kyoshi, and also the out now sequel, The Shadow of Kyoshi, all with Mike's help.
Perfect. All right. So
I really want to read
once again,
those.
so thrilled to have you all with us today. I know things have been a little different this year as far as Comic-Con goes, but this is a fan favorite panel whenever we get to have it at the show, and I'm glad we get to have you all here again. So first, I'm going to kind of ask you just a very basic question about Avatar, and that is, what are some of your favorite Avatar stories that have been added to the world?
The
Like
Search.
new ones?
Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
I mean, it was cool to work with FC on the novels because that was like something very new for
The Search for Zuko's mom.
universe. I wasn't sure like Avatar could work in a novel format when the publisher pitched it, but you know, when
I'll spend money on it.
and seeing
I mean,
the drafts that he wrote, like
I'm curious
it's kinda
about
cool
the
'cause
life of
it's like,
Kyoshi.
it's definitely not the
It's
show.
one of the
it's
most
definitely not
interesting
comics, it's
avatars
kind of its own,
outside of Roku, I think.
own thing, and it's a it's a little more mature. I
Yeah,
guess, in some
The Search.
spots,
That was it.
and can do
That was
a little
right.
bit darker on some tonal things, but that's been cool to see that kind of avenue of storytelling develop in the Avatar universe.
FC, how did that come to be? How did you sort of end up either deciding to write an Avatar novel or being the one to write the Avatar novel?
So it was actually kind of a surprise to me because my publisher, Abrams, I found out had submitted a proposal to Nickelodeon and to Mike
What?
about
Gargamon?
about 2 books in the Avatar universe, and they kind of said, "Hey, we have an author who wrote, an Asian-inspired action-adventure comedy, so we think he might be able to do it." And then they only told me that this had happened until after everyone had said yes. So I jumped at the opportunity, and basically wasn't going to turn down a gift like that, and just ran with it. I got lucky, got real lucky.
That's awesome. And then Jean, so you were one of the first to start the Avatar comics run. How did that come to be?
It was kind of crazy. I definitely wasn't the first because there was a whole series of Avatar comics that used to be in the Nickelodeon magazines, I think. That were
Nickelodeon magazine. Yes, that was the thing.
Yeah, it was collected in Lost Adventures. So I think we had a copy of that floating around in my
Jose
house.
Castaneda.
I got
That
the call
would
from,
be
Samantha Robertson,
quite
who
the
was at
unpopular
Dark Horse at the
opinion.
time, and she asked me if I'd be willing to write these, and I
Liking
freaked
Korra
out.
more than The Last Airbender.
I
But I
was
respect
kinda
that
like everybody else,
opinion.
right? I was a huge Avatar fan. I watched all 3 seasons. At the end of the whole show, I was like, "What happened to Zuko's mom?" And then I asked that on the very first call that I had.
I really
with
wish
Mike and Brian.
Nick would have allowed them to
ask them. So to go
animate
from,
some of
being a
this
fan
stuff.
of the show to being invited,
because I know that was the
to
original
tell
intention with
stories.
Zuko's mother's
And
story.
to answer that question was amazing. It was amazing. It was one of the funnest experiences I've had as a comics guy.
Faith, how did you come to be in the Avatar world?
I feel like my background was pretty similar to Jean's. I was a really, really big fan of the show, and actually a really big fan of the comics that Jean was writing. Like, Jean and I are friends, and were published by the same publisher for second book. So sometimes we'd end up at the same conventions, and every time I'd see him, I'd just be like, Gene, can we talk about Avatar? Like, you know, and I'd discuss like the latest comics that he had written and stuff like that. So I was a really big fan of both Gene and Guri Huru, and then also, yeah, of course, Avatar. Like, I don't know. I remember I started watching the show when it was airing. The second season had just aired, and season 3, I think, was about to start. So I watched season 3 in real time. And I remember when the finale finally came, it was such a long wait for the season 3 finale. And just experiencing that in real time was just such an incredible
Watching that when it came out was just phenomenal.
And then Gene was going to move on and pursue other projects, and Dark Horse approached me about possibly writing Avatar. And at the time I was working on a fantasy series myself that was also very inspired by Avatar, an original series called The Nameless City. And, you know, the idea of getting to play in the Avatar sandbox, to work hand in hand with Brian and Mike, like, it was so exciting and terrifying, to be honest. Like, I've never been more scared to start to work on a project. But yeah, I got the job, and I started working on Imbalance. And I feel like Imbalance, just writing it was partially inspired by the first season of Korra and the rise of Bender supremacy. So yeah, just getting
I really like the art style on The Promise
in that universe was so amazing. I guess the short answer is Dark Horse emailed me and was like, Gene is moving on, you know, out for this job. And I was like, those are huge shoes to fill, but if you will have me, I would love the opportunity. And yeah, now I'm Imbalance, the first trilogy that I wrote. Oh, and the artist that I collaborate with is Peter Wortman, an amazing artist.
I excused the motorcycle that just ran
done. The
by.
library edition is out, and now there's an original standalone graphic novel series, or standalone graphic novel, coming out in October called Katara and the Pirate's Silver, also drawn by Peter and written by me.
Perfect.
Well, I have to point out, though, that Faith drew Avatar before that.
Yeah. We did a short comic together, a free comic book day story that is now collected in the Team Avatar Tales.
Friendship is built on our mutual love of Avatar.
I feel like there's I was answering this question in a blog interview or something, but I feel like Avatar kind of just like both like shaped and broke the mold for like an entire like layer of like generation of creatives, however you want to phrase that, because it's just like it's just where it inspired so much of us. It's just where our heads go when we think about, you know, what we really love and what we would like to be like, and, you know, what depths we would like to accomplish as creative professionals. So yeah,
it's the platonic, like I write and draw original, you know, comics for kids. Like that's most of my, that's my entire career pretty much. And it's like, I feel like Avatar is just this platonic ideal of what is an
I haven't had much to interject here.
Kids. You know, it has everything, and it's absolutely influenced and
I'm going to be listening for anything interesting, but
I joke that that's why anytime anyone of a certain age sees a compelling villain, you really think, how are they going to?
What's your guys' favorite episode?
What kind of awesome redemption arc was going to happen? Because that's my ideal of storytelling. So.
Yeah, and I actually don't think that like Faith and I are unique in that our friendship is at least partially built on Avatar, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we've gotten books of you know, people getting married.
That's a good one.
You know, Korra and Asami, and you know, or Aang and Katara, or you know, and it's like so cool that
I'm gonna have to think a minute.
Actually, like incorporate.
I like
Avatar
both
into,
of those a lot.
You know, sacred day and stuff. So. Yeah, it's definitely creates communities, and which is very cool.
I think one of the biggest times I've seen that Avatar community is Dark Horse has done a couple live streams with Janet
Blind
Barney
Bandit
and a couple of
might
the other
be
voice actors for
my favorite.
Korra, and it's been such a highlight every time we've done
it's
it.
It's got some of the best moments and some of the best fight animation, especially when the reveal when Toph just goes ham on everybody.
Online and
so good.
Talking about this thing they love and watching just like
Zuko alone is a really well written episode.
It's,
like
truly amazing
beautiful
every time we do
Kurosawa-esque.
Yeah, I was feeling very nostalgic
episode
from the last one
and
when it was all
just leaves me feeling bad at the end of the episode. So I'm just like, oh god.
records.
I think that's the only reason it's.
PJ
Even though I think it might be objectively one of the best episodes easily,
Mindy's
subjectively for me, I think I like Blind Bandit a little bit more because it was a little more entertaining. If that makes any more sense.
What do you think it is about Avatar that keeps bringing people back over the years? Both kind of fans, but also kind of creators who keep returning to
That's
it.
a question I care about.
Man, I don't know. I feel like one of you might be better at answering this because, you know, Brian and I just were, you know, animation dudes back in early 2000s who wanted to make a TV show that, you know, was cool and that we liked and that, you know, hopefully would stand the test of time.
Yeah, I think that was some of the best uses
so,
and looks of firebending is
some
when
ways
he's
I feel
using
like
it
we got
in
lucky, too,
tandem with
in
the
fact
blades.
that the show even got made.
Love
that
it.
We got to tell the story kind of the way we wanted to. In this, at the time, doing a kind of continuous story in kids animation was not a thing that was happening.
Yeah.
You know, it was more common in Japan, but certainly not in the US and certainly not on Nickelodeon. They were kind of confused by what we were making. But to their
I
credit,
am not surprised
"All
that
right, you guys seem
Nickelodeon had
to
no idea what the hell they were doing.
know what you're doing, so we'll let you run with this idea." And you know, so now when it's I think part of the reason why, like, now that the original series is back on Netflix,
I would argue that Zuko and Aang are both the main character. Because there's only a few episodes. I think there's a fair amount of episodes that feature only one or the other. Sometimes there's been episodes where it's only Zuko. We don't actually see Aang in the gang. And he's the one that has, like, they're paired as this duality, like, multiple times throughout the seasons.
It's alive. It's going to evolve.
Because the story's really about both of them.
Something just due to the.
And then it always felt like Katara, Sokka, and them, they were the supporting cast, but it was really about Aang and Zuko.
Looking at it,
even
too,
though it's presented
so
as Aang's story,
particularly in the time that you
Zuko's
were making
really
it was so unusual, where you had an animated
one of the
show
huge
where the characters would evolve. You know, they would change and grow over the course of 3 seasons.
It's
like
really well done.
I mean, I do feel like the characters.
Zuko's easily my favorite character, and he's arguably the best character in the entire show.
I feel like Toph in particular was such a big deal for me. Like, having this, I was this huge tomboy as a kid, and now I feel like we're having this huge surge of, like, women in animation and female characters and animated shows with female leads that is, like, incredibly important. But earlier in the 90s and in the aughts, it felt like that was incredibly rare to have, like, this strong, tough, like, tomboy female character in a show, and then also have a show with, like, multiple female leads. You know, we had Katara, we had Toph, we had Azula, we had May, we had Ty Lee. There were so many women in this show, and, like, that was something.
When did the show start?
You know, like, really
originally aired.
As someone who worked in animation, I did animation.
What
college.
year was
I worked
that?
in the industry for a few years before transitioning into comics. And
2005.
It's like, I've never seen anything like that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So many women in it. And then like, watching characters
I was
grow and transition and change
junior
over
in
the course
high
of those
school at
3
that
years.
point.
It was so unusual. And that's why I continue to return to the show and continue to be inspired by it and wanting to put, like, that heart and that empathy into my own work. It was just, it was so different. I don't know. I feel like now, looking at the new animated shows on Netflix, like Hilda, like She-Ra, like all of those, like, that feels like Avatar: The Next Generation. Like, these creators inspired by Avatar
I've never
now
watched
getting their own shows, which is so amazing.
Any of the shows she's mentioned.
Really exciting to see.
I've heard good things about them. I've never watched them, though.
It is hard to say where the
nice,
it's
Jack.
hard to describe the extent of the influence of that original show.
No foul there.
I think
I'm just
almost any story.
I'm just a little geezer.
That's being
is all.
Right now, especially for kids. Even if it's not a fantasy story, I think there's some element of Avatar in there. And I do have to agree with what Mike said about Nickelodeon. This might be a bad thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. When I was introduced to Avatar because one of my friends loaned me.
Go on, trash talk Nick. It's okay.
Season 1. He's like, this is the best cartoon animated series that this country has ever produced. And he
yes,
me, and I looked at
hard
it
agree.
And it had a little Nickelodeon logo on it. I was like, come on, really? but it was just so wildly beyond expectations at the time. Not just for Nickelodeon.
I've heard
probably
so
for
many people
all
say
of,
that same
the
thing
animation
too.
industry. I do think some of the
Really?
magic is like you can't even put your finger on
It's on
it.
Nickelodeon.
You know, like it's almost hard to capture. But it is the world building.
She-Ra, and then there was like
characters.
two
The
others
characters
that
are
I've
really
honestly never heard of,
real.
and I
think they all
can't
have
remember their
very
names
relatable
now.
Flaws, even the hero, even Aang.
I would
has
put
these,
Steven
he
Universe
struggles
up
with
there
anger,
with
he struggles
something
with
along
cowardice.
this
These are all
lines.
things that we all deal with on a daily basis, and I think as somebody who's written in that world, you can tell that it's a good world because some of those stories write themselves. You know what I mean? Like some of those characters write themselves. You just give it a little nudge, and then you can hear Toph talking in her head, and you just write down what you hear. It's because she's so well defined. Like that world and those characters are so well defined. They write themselves.
I love hearing Toph's voice in my head. She's so I love her.
Like the characters really can write themselves how well they're
kind of a
defined.
Great point, kind of about the fact that it is like a timeline with like a past, a present, and a future. And you guys have sort of been playing in that timeline, sort of in various points. What's it like telling a story where people kind of know what the end is going to be or what the next stage is going to be? What's it like playing in like a gap where people don't necessarily know?
Well, it's funny because I was never a fan of prequels. Like, I always thought I never really understood them, and I was like, if
does he
you
like the Star Wars prequels?
Like, what's the point? But now, obviously now
no worries, Jack.
We're doing that stuff a little bit. Although,
Take your time.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like we did Avatar, and then we did like the sequel, but then with the comics, we were also kind of filling in the middle, so it was continuation of the original series, but also a prequel to Korra in a way. Yeah. But it is interesting to start to make those connections.
I love Gene and Faith's work so much because they fill in that timeline so organically, like answering Gene answering the burning questions that everyone's left with at the end of the series, and Faith.
I've heard some people weren't too
from, as Republic City is getting formed,
thrilled with some of the execution on the search and the promise.
Point, like, yeah, that's the thing. Yes. So it's just wonderful to see,
particularly around how Azula was handled
with that excellent clay and shape into excellent shapes.
Yeah, I feel really like fortunate to be able to write in that gap between Avatar and Korra, because I feel like that's something that's been really wonderful and really unique about the comics. It's that they do continue the story. Now, Katara and the Pirate Silver, that one that tells a story during the second season of the show, so that's not advancing the Avatar canon.
That's a weird place to put something like that.
To be honest, like that one in particular was just like so fun because I could just be goofy and loose, and I didn't have to worry as much about canon. Like,
is this in the middle of season 2, or?
But I'm so proud of it.
Between 2 and 3,
and it's inspired like. Also specifically about like my very personal reaction to the first season of Legend of Korra, in particular about things like taking away someone's bending, and is this like Aang means it as when he does it to the Fire Lord, it's like it's an act to save the life of this villain, so he won't have to kill him. But on another level, it's also a very violent act because you're taking away a part of someone. You're removing a part of their identity, a part of their personality. So, it was Imbalance was a lot of times inspired. Yeah, there were like elements in the story that were inspired like by my own traumatic response to seeing Korra lose her powers, like having her bending taken away by Amon, and having, seeing that like very traumatic act right there on screen. And that's something that's was very exciting for me about writing Imbalance. It was like putting something like so personal into this licensed comic book, which is not something, as a writer, you don't always get the opportunity to do. But yeah, I feel like it's like this really cool gift that Brian and Mike have given us, the opportunity to expand the canon and continue to bridge the gap between the two series.
Yeah, I do think some of the fun of those.
Except there's a couple people they've
of
completely
working on those comics is
forgotten to
that,
give us any
the
context
world in
on,
Korra is so
like
well
May
defined and it's so different from the
or
world are. So
Suki,
it's like,
and what
you know, if
happened
you
to
see somebody
them.
after a summer, like when
It's
you're
like by
friends after a
Korra, they're
summer
just
and
forgotten.
They went from being really, you know, terrible at basketball or whatever, and then they become suddenly awesome.
Ty
You're like,
Lee's
how did
legacy
you do
is at
that?
least felt
So you kinda
through
ask that same thing
how
with the entire
her
world.
chi
You know,
blocking
this
and everything
world
like that gets
becomes,
progressed into the Kyoshi
this
Warriors and then
completely different place with
expanded
Korra.
beyond that.
So you want
But those
know,
two are just
how'd
kind
you-
of like,
how'd you do that?
and Suki's like one of the best
I
characters
also
of the
think
show.
that, with the prequel question, it's just because of the world building. Like there's that one scene in the original series where they walk into this room in an air temple, and there's this swirl of statues of all of the previous avatars, right? And when you look
Most
at
of
that, you
Korra's
know
villains
that
are better
every
than
single
Fire
one
Lord
of those
Ozai.
statues represents a full
Ozai's pretty
story.
one-dimensional.
It can kind of
There's a little nuance in there
is doing that
vaguely
with,
when you
with Kyoshi,
think
but as a
about it
full
yourself,
story. Like,
but
it doesn't feel like a
as
prequel.
far
It
as the
feels
show
like
presents
it feels
him,
like
yeah,
something that could
he's
stand on
not
its own,
that
even
deep.
if you didn't know anything about that
Azula, however,
so
you can
it's
write
part of
papers
part of the richness of the
on
world
her
building.
outlook, on her psychology, on
Totally.
why she is the way
Kind
she
of
is.
on that front. So
And
obviously you guys are
she's
taking these
a
stories
brilliant
and
villain,
building
and
them
I
out,
think
but you're
she's
also
the
taking
best
them to a
villain
completely different medium.
personally
So how is
that
it
we've
sort
got.
of for you
Amon
all
ends
to
the
take
here.
these
I think
animations
we're
and turn them into something
almost
static?
right up there.
And
I
for
really
you,
love
FC,
them.
how's it taking that animation and turning it into like a prose novel?
I don't know how Faith feels, but I did think that there was some struggle in the beginning with how to do bending in a static medium, like how to do the action sequences in a static medium. I remember having some conversations early on about that. Was that something for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like one thing that Avatar is certainly known for is its incredible fight scenes. And in comics that like, especially the page count, because if you're reading the Avatar trilogies in like separate individual graphic novels, they're I think 72 pages, 71 or 72, can't remember. I've only written like 6 of these. And so it's like you don't necessarily have the page count to do this like amazing like shonen
drawn
Jump
out
style
fight,
like fight sequence. So yeah, that was potentially very challenging. And also like I'm an artist myself, and with my original trilogy, The Nameless City, that was very inspired by Avatar, and also I really wanted to like challenge myself and do like really extended fight shonen Jump style fight scenes. So like I brought that to writing Avatar comics. So sometimes I'd be told by my editor, it's like, oh, you know this fight sequence, it's like it's really long, so you need to kind of like compress it a little bit. Like, but that'll give Peter more of an opportunity to like do cool poses and that kind of thing. I know Peter actually had a martial arts consultant. Like he had a friend that does martial arts, and he consulted with that friend about like the correct way to draw the posing and the bending. I thought he did an amazing job.
I mean, that's what the show did too.
Opportunity he had to draw dynamic fight scenes, he went above and beyond. But yeah, it was absolutely a challenge at the beginning because we didn't necessarily have the page count, and then it's like, yeah, you're trying to take what on the screen in the show would be this like amazing like motion filled animated sequence, and then play it out with static images.
Who is your all's favorite supporting character?
I think you can do amazing fight scenes in comics. I just
Let's
think
say
you have to work really
outside
hard
of
at them.
the main group.
I think because I finished my latest rewatch just a day prior to this, and I think
excluding Uncle Ira,
subconsciously, I feel like I may have ended up toning down power levels to try to make everything more describable in prose. So
yeah, but I would say like about those because I know we've talked about like did you call it sand stepping? Was that what it's called?
Dust stepping, yeah.
Dust stepping, yes.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that is cool because it's like it's a very subtle thing that actually in prose I feel like is clear to describe. Whereas if we tried to animate it,
let's see,
it might be like, why are they walking on the air? Like what's going on? Like it might
honestly
just be
I
confusing,
would say Ty Lee
or
Suki.
Brian and our martial arts consultant early on, it was like finding these styles that work very dynamic, that would translate well into
Oh, yeah.
Especially TV
Definitely.
animation, where you don't have the time or to get like super subtle
And she's not
feature-level
one-dimensional
animation all the time, even though it gets
especially
some,
when it comes to the
um,
beach episode,
because
because we see the layers of all of the villains there, and I loved it. Well, villains.
And yeah, you're not gonna necessarily you're gonna go to the comic or a novel more for like, I feel like the character stuff or the story developments in the world building stuff.
Yep.
And then we always
Agreed.
It is an action adventure show and universe, so obviously there's gonna still be all that life and death stakes and everything, but it's just kind of depicted in different ways.
Yeah. I know it's been a while, but Mike, how has it been for you kind of seeing your original story develop so much in these different mediums?
No,
Like there's even a glimmer,
really
multiple
cool
glimmers
very
at
talented writers and artists,
Azula's own insecurities and weaknesses
creators in their own
too.
right, and see
And I
what
love
they
that too.
bring to the
Like she
projects, and
tries to
Faith was
carry
saying,
herself
like,
above, but there's little cracks in
bringing
the
their own
armor that
personal
gets shown in that episode.
experiences, into the characters and into the stories. Like that's what makes the stories good. I was also wary of like it becoming the kind of property where it's just like, here's the novelizations and here's the comics, without actually like adding any value to the stories or the property. So that's why Brian and I have tried to stay as involved as much as we can, as far as just like consulting, but like giving everyone the freedom to put their own spin on things and take it in different directions that like we never would have imagined.
It's interesting to see how
I
like
don't-
defensive of the
what FC
property
did with the novel was
that
fantastic, and,
Dimartino and Konetsko
I couldn't
are.
imagine writing a Kyoshi novel myself. So it's cool.
That's good
that,
to hear.
there are writers who can do that kind of stuff.
And there was nothing they could
So
do to
obviously
save the live
everyone
action
knows now
movie. That was all out of their
Avatar is
hands,
now
though.
on Netflix. Have you guys seen like a huge resurgence kind of in new fans or old fans coming back to it?
I've seen a lot more fan art
yeah.
online just recently, like popping up all over my, my Instagram.
It's been on the
feed
top
and
10
stuff like
Netflix
that.
shows
But also,
for
I'm
57
Canadian, and
days.
I think it's been on Canadian Netflix like all this time.
Yeah, I think the US was like just behind the rest of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. It's definitely all about the comic books, the
Yeah.
novels, and
I mean, it is
everything
cool. I mean, I'm
outside of it. I was really hoping they would
getting, like,
either be
messages
talking
from
about a new
old high school
show,
friends
new
who are like, "My
series,
kid is watching the show
or
now," and,
more details on the
the
live
fact that
action
I
remake
think
that
it's
they're
still
going to
in
be
the top
making
10
on
Netflix
Netflix
in the US, which is like
Yeah.
with
for a
Dimartino and
month or
Konetsko.
so,
I
which
keep
is, like,
saying his
insane
name wrong.
That this 15-year-old show is
Konetsko.
like in like standard def like format is,
Yeah, I mean, we are
still
29 minutes
holds
in out of
attention,
40, so
people are
we've got
rewatching it
10
for, like,
minutes
the
left,
30th
and
time.
there hasn't been anything
Definitely
new.
seen
It's
posts
really
like
just
that
been
too,
talking about the
where it's
legacy, how they've
or
continued
they
it,
introduce it to their
and
friends, or they're
like past
you know,
beyond the show,
or we also,
beyond Korra,
now
in
it's
the
like, it's been long
the
enough that, like, there's a
novelizations,
whole
the
new
comics,
generation
and
of
stuff
kids
like
who
that. Which
never saw it in the first place, so they're just
I've-
seeing it for
when
the
it comes to
first time.
comics, as much as a lot of mine,
That's happening at our house. So we have 4 kids. Our 2 older ones watched it when they were. My oldest is 16, so when he was around like 8, 9, 10,
what was I
watched the whole
saying?
thing over and over and over.
when it comes to
again.
comics, I
And we
don't have
had
the
it. We
time to
actually-
read
we
so much
actually
of them,
had
and I
bought it on
always end
Amazon
up
Prime. So I had it
reading
this whole time.
the
And
spark
then
notes
the
or
younger kids
the
now, because it was on
synopsis
Netflix, I don't know,
of
it makes no
everything.
difference. It's just like
That's
the
where a
icon you
majority
click,
of my
right?
knowledge
For
comes
whatever reason,
from,
now that it's
just
on
to
Netflix,
save
they
time
watch the whole-
and
they watch the
money.
whole thing
But
over
yeah,
and over again now. And
Yeah.
I just got a
So,
text from
yeah,
an old college
it's-
friend.
Netflix is doing a
His
live
10-year-old
action
daughter,
remake
well,
of the
his 9-year-old
show,
daughter is having her 10th birthday
of the first show,
in a couple weeks, and she's just decided. It's
but it
gonna
is
be
being
Avatar themed.
it is under the creative control of
She wasn't
Dimartino and
alive. She was not
Konetsko.
alive when
So
when she's having
here's
an Avatar
here's to
movie.
saying what happens with
That's
that.
adorable.
I'm still
Yeah, like,
apprehensive about it. I think it can be
the
done,
Blu-ray, the DVD,
but there was
those
too
complete
much
sets, but it's
meddling
like, oh, it's on Netflix. Well, I'll just watch
and
it on Netflix.
various
Convenient
other
the ease
issues
of
that
Netflix.
ruined
I don't know.
the last Airbender
seductive.
film. But I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I would love more
we've definitely
animation.
seen
I
kind of
think
a boost in
animation
people talking about our comics and stuff.
is
There's like constant news
where
stories,
it
like
needs
what
to
happens
stay,
after. It's like
but
you can
they
find
might
out.
maybe they can prove me
It's really
wrong.
great to see that people are not only discovering the show but discovering that it keeps going. Speaking of it keeping going, there are a couple new books coming out from Faith and FC. Do you guys?
I've
wanna talk
heard
about
Dragon
sort of
Prince
your
is
new
really
books?
good.
FC,
I've seen
by
an
the time this is
episode or
showing, your
two
book has been out for officially
just out of
3
order
days,
because
so
somebody I know was
congratulations
in the middle of
advance.
watching it.
It's a
I don't
in the
know.
future.
I've heard it's up there,
But what is it? What's your new book
but
about?
I'm not sure
The
personally.
new book is The Shadow of Kyoshi, and it is about Kyoshi's adventures, sort of after following her revelation to the world as the Avatar, as was described in book 1. So a lot of it takes place in the Fire Nation. So just how book 1 was exploration of the Earth
Oh,
Kingdom.
definitely.
Book 2
I'm willing
is
to
my
give all of it a
background on,
chance.
the Fire Nation.
I try to
What
give
about you, Faith?
anything
What's your new book?
the benefit of the doubt.
In October there
So
is
if
a
the
standalone
budget
Katara
that they
focused
need
graphic
is
novel coming
provided,
out, written by me, drawn by
and they get
Peter Wortman,
good
called Katara and the
castings,
Pirate Silver.
they could probably pull
takes
it off.
place during
The teaser
second season
still
of the
that they
show,
released
and
looks pretty
it was
good.
basically
Appa looks
inspired
pretty
by,
good.
Peter and
Aang
I
in the distance,
brainstorming
even though he's
about
not
what sort of
cast, looks
Avatar
pretty
stories
good.
we would
It's like
to
a
write, that he would like to
concept art
draw.
kind of thing.
And he was basically like, I really
But
want to do
who
a
knows?
story about Katara, because Katara is his favorite character. And I want to do one where she becomes a pirate. So I was like, okay, great, let's do one. So yeah, that came about because of Peter's idea. That one was really
strange,
fun
but
to write. Oh my gosh, because it's not, it's not set in the
fine.
future, so things are
Pirate
the
Katara.
canon
I
is a
don't
little
know
less
that anybody needed
complicated.
that, but
it just has a lot of
go for
comedy
it.
and action, and Katara on her own. Dealing with complicated situations, so I really enjoed writing it.
I disagree with that
There's some more
statement.
stories
And
coming, but they are not announced.
when we have a
yet,
minute,
so
I'll
I don't know if I'm
touch on
allowed
that.
You're allowed to say that. Yeah, this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first standalone graphic novel, correct?
Yeah, I think so. It's the same length as the individual volumes of Imbalance. So it's 72 pages, 71 or 72. Why can't I remember? But yeah, it's a complete story. So you can pick it up if you've only seen the show, but you haven't read the comics. But yeah,
So just a standalone
enjoy it, man.
73 issue
Just really enjoy
story about Katara becoming a pilot.
Yeah, in addition to those brand new
pirate.
stories that are coming, we've also
In the
got
middle
a
of
couple
season
new
2.
editions of some older stuff. So the Art of the Animated Series is coming out in a new edition, and we've also got the Omnibus series is coming as well, which is really cool. So that means they'll be available in a more affordable format, kind of as a collection. A lot of times for Dark Horse, sort of the way it works is we do individual volumes and then a library edition and then an omnibus edition. And it's been nice to see, because there's so much love for Avatar, that we can just keep them available in every format so people can continue to read the stories however they choose to read them, which has been really fun for us.
Yeah.
Those covers are amazing. We did brand new covers for the omnibus editions.
That would be so funny to see old Katara flying a plane.
You can cut it out if I can.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
A new cover for the Art of edition. It was awesome.
Yeah, that will be, I'm pretty sure, available by the time this comes out, and I'll check on that, and then we'll cut this out if not. But yeah, no, it's truly beautiful, and I'm really excited to see all that new art.
Because I would say a lot of that blame goes on Viacom, because they wanted a season 4, they wanted so much more, but they kept Viacom, Nickelodeon, and whoever,
it was so exciting,
the same parent company.
Look behind the curtain of
they just
and see how the show
couldn't see the value in it.
Art and just
Korra didn't get the ratings they wanted either, and then they pushed it to
a library edition of
to a web series.
That has,
they just made a lot of poor decisions with it.
All 3
in general
of the story and collected
later in life.
Beautiful hardcover, and then there's like little notes from both me and Peter, and early sketches from Peter. That came out this week in June, and I don't know. I'm just really excited seeing it. Let's see.
I think it was a mix of the two. And that's what happens when studio heads see something flop or fail.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things
they
about
think
the
it's because
is
everything else.
Those sketchbook sections where you can see the original concept art and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the movie didn't
All right,
come
so,
out
we are
until
just about to wrap
years
up.
after
Our
the
time
show
is
ended.
running low. So would everyone kind of say where people can find you
2008
online
is when
and
the
sort
show
of maybe
ended.
a project that you're excited about right now? It can be Avatar or not. Let's go ahead and start with you, Michael.
You can find me around, I don't know, where am I?
And the
I'm on
movie
Instagram,
came
I
out in
guess.
2010, so
For
they
Mike
wouldn't have known
LTV,
it flopped
yeah.
yet. They ended the
Um,
show before the live
other than that,
action,
I'm
2
not
years
too much. I
before
have
the
a
live
website
action
too,
movie came out. So
michael.dimartino.com that I have to update. But yeah, I'm just working on some of my own side projects right now.
I don't think that factored in.
Obviously, still involved in the Avatar universe in various forms.
Perfect. FC, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram.
They
not
probably
frequently, but,
wanted it
ebook
to
author, just my last
succeed,
name, book author,
and we're
smushed
banking on that
together.
movie to succeed, so they could move it off
I'm
into this
working on a project
theatrical
that
realm
I got
where they
pages
can
into it and then I
recreate the
realized that,
show and all
oh,
of
wow,
that,
this is very much
and bring in all
again,
that box office money rather
inspired
than
by
the
the
advertisement
greatness
money
of,
from TV.
of Avatar. So we'll see how that
And then
how
that backfired.
it, works out.
What about you, Faith?
I'm
Viacom's
right
not
now,
known for
I'm
making the
working
best
on a
decisions.
unannounced original graphic novel that is going to be out from first second books a couple of years in the future. It's about girls and horses, and I'm writing and drawing it, and it's a little bit based on my experience.
Right now, they're just kind of promoting their own current projects.
So
it
very
seems.
excited about that original project. I'm also writing more Avatar, so just waiting on notes on my latest script.
Yeah. Maybe some announcement will be coming sometime soon. Who knows?
Or no notes. I mean, no notes is fine. Fine notes.
Give us an
What
announcement.
about you, Gene?
Well, online, I'm
She's
at my name,
teasing
Yulin
it,
Yang,
but
all one word.
I mean, it could just
on
be another
Twitter
book
and
or whatever.
Instagram. I also have a website that needs to be updated, jinwinning.com. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. But in terms of projects, I just had two come out. I had a book called Dragon Hoops, which is about basketball, which is what the cover looks like, basketball. And then with Gurihiru, our team that I worked on all those Avatar comics with, we just put out a book called Superman Smashes the Klan.
Nice.
Oh, I forgot my social media stuff. Sorry.
Oh, do it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, just quickly, I'm at Faith Erin Hicks on both Twitter and Instagram. Those ones are
If season 4 of Avatar is never made, would I like an animated movie that continues after the show?
And then I'm Faith Erin Hicks.
I wanted like an animated movie special or something
All right, well, thank
that
you all
followed
for watching.
Zuko
I'm
finding
so
his
glad
mother.
We were able to do
They ended
this
up doing
this
that in
weird
comic
time.
book form
I miss seeing
instead.
everybody in person, and I
But that's
think
kind
we
of what
all
I
feel
wanted.
The same, but at least we get to do this with you now. Huge shout out to Abrams Books, which is FC's publisher. We wouldn't be able to do this without
there is
them,
some
as well as
interesting,
Nickelodeon
fun
for letting
live
this
action
happen,
fan stuff,
and
Avatar related. There was a fun one that came that I saw like a couple weeks ago about a live action recreation of Sokka eating the cactus juice and tripping out. It was really neat. What's the last minute of this? Oh, just this. Okay. All right. Well, that was a little underwhelming. So I wanted to get out of here. I wanted to address a couple things here. So, I mean, I do love the continuations they've done. It's never going to be as fulfilling as seeing it in animated form. Though I do like some of the stories that they've done. Of course, some of the creative decisions that were made, or not maybe the creative decisions, but the execution was not up to par. And it was just, yeah, I don't know. It was really disappointing. I saw this coming up, and I think I just got too excited. I think we all got a little too excited because Avatar's had this huge resurgence thanks to Netflix. I mean, it's one of the few shows to be in the top 10 consecutively. I think it's on its last I saw it tied with Ozark for being on the top 10 list 57 times since it released, which is crazy for a show that is 12 years old. 15 years old if you go back to when it started, which is crazy. And I mean, a bunch of YouTubers are getting caught onto it. A lot of people who didn't get to watch it, are starting to watch it, and it's swelling. Popularity is swelling. Korra is coming to Netflix next month. So we'll be able to continue right into it in one place, which is something that Viacom made really difficult to do as these shows were airing. It was really hard to find these episodes and watch them. It was really annoying. I ended up having to find other resources to finish Korra because it was blocked. All avenues of watching Korra, even online, officially and legitimately, were blocked by Viacom, and because they didn't want to sign a deal or whatever the condition was that my internet provider didn't like Viacom. Whatever it was blocked in my area, which is really stupid. So there's just, again, a lot of poor decisions on Viacom's part, and I don't know. I guess I was excited. I think maybe just that hype of everything going on. I was just like, maybe they're going to talk about something exciting. Maybe talk about the show. Talk about Korra. Talk about maybe something coming about after that. Something new. But no, it was, I need to look at the description because I didn't think it talked about any of this. And it's cool. Like what they've done with the comics and what they've done with the novels is interesting. I just don't think it's what anybody's like really foaming at the mouth for. The only real huge question that the fans really wanted to know about was Zuko's mother and what happened there, and they already answered that. So I don't know. It was just a disappointing panel. I don't know. Maybe that was my fault for getting my hopes up, or whatever. But we know Netflix wants to do a live action series, so I thought maybe we'd see something for that. But no, nothing. Just them kind of circle jerking each other about their ability to continue the show in comic book and novel form. Excuse the expression. So yeah, it just sucks. The show's fantastic, and anytime I have a chance to recommend it, I'm not trying to like crap on their work, like, cause what they've done is good stuff. It's I'm just frustrated with the whole my own need for something more, I guess. And I'm taking it out on them. That's not how it should go. Like I respect all of them as creators. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I mean, they all work on it. Of course, they're gonna have like a happy days kind of outlook on it. I don't know. I'm just talking in circles at this point. Anyway, I wanted to address a comment that came up earlier. It's not even Avatar related, but it just stuck in my brain from Jack the Ripper here, saying, I'm not excited for New Mutants at all, but I'll give it a chance too. Horror doesn't suit mutants. Now, I don't know about the New Mutants as far as in the comics. I'm aware of some of the characters individually because they've interacted with the X-Men. But the statement that I take issue with, sir, is that horror doesn't suit mutants. I think out of anyone, mutants are the most susceptible and what's the word I'm looking for? I think they fit in with horror more than any other, because think about it. They're a group that has to live in secret. They are outcast. They are hunted by the government. If they're captured, they are experimented on. X-Men started off as like a play against racism and segregation and xenophobia in general. And being a mutant means, unless you're Magneto or one of the X-Men, being a mutant is living in fear. So take that as you will. What's up, square screen? Yeah, nothing new. They didn't announce anything. They just were talking about their experiences working on the comics and the novels that have continued the story beyond the show, filling in the gaps between Korra and the show. Nothing new. And so, good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, it's fun to hear people talk about it, but I was hoping for something more focused on the show itself, but it was really just about what was different about working on the comics versus the show, what was different about working on a novel for this series, how they tackled different adversities and struggles with translating what was an animated show into page formats, and what the struggles of continuing a story and filling in the gaps to a future story like Korra and all that stuff, which all in its own right is awesome. But I was hoping for a little more than that. So yeah, no news for the live action series, no new animated series. They didn't even announce a new comic or new book. It was really just them talking about working on the comics and books. So I don't like being negative, but I think it's just like, I don't know. I'm being a negative Nancy because they didn't give us anything interesting. Let's see. I don't know, Jack. We'll see. We'll see how it all turns out. I have some. I wouldn't say I have high hopes for it. I'm definitely interested in the idea of it because I like the idea because mutants is a group that is, like I said, born in fear. They live in fear. So like having like a horror themed movie surrounding a group of mutants works in an asylum based thing where they're being experimented on, tortured, manipulated for study or whatever it is that we learn is being done to them. I think they're the group that like allows that the most. And in a way that I really liked how Winter Soldier wasn't just a superhero movie. It was actually a spy thriller, a political thriller. Same with like, it's a different genre in a superhero world. I'm curious to see what a horror movie in a superhero world looks like. So we'll see how that all pans out. I've heard really good things about The Gifted, but it's another show like that I haven't been able to check out. I haven't been able to check out Umbrella Academy. There's a lot of shows that I'm still trying to find the time and the motivation to start that I've been just had recommended to me endlessly. Hopefully I'll be able to get to them eventually, but yeah. So overall, gist of the whole thing is the panel was a little disappointing. And I don't know. Maybe it's just my fault for wanting more, expecting more, or I don't know. I feel bad. UA is a must. I will check it out eventually. For sure. But yeah, I guess that's it, guys. That's all we got. Not a whole lot to run with here. So, UA is Umbrella Academy. Jack. So that's it. Sorry that this was not the most exciting panel, but thank you guys for tuning in and interacting and talking and having these conversations. So yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. I'm going to have to pop off here. Tonight at 8 Eastern Standard Time, I'm getting together for a live stream kind of trivia event around like Marvel, I believe was the topic, with a bunch of different reactors that are also participating in ReactorCon. So I've got the link up in my community tab. Check that out. I don't know what to expect with it. This is going to be my first time doing anything like this. So it's probably not going to go that great. Take care, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in.